Hi everyone, it's Denise from Dobby Books. Happy Sunday. So today I'm going to show you, of course, a mini little book haul I did. Plus I want to go over with you a book or two that I finished and just a recap on what I'm still currently reading. And the vast majority, of course, has to do with my Middle Ages study. So let's get started on that. What I'm still currently reading, and I'm getting to the end, is still the Book of the Middle Ages, and this is a Memoria Press edition. The author is Dorothy Mills, and I am almost there. This is all I have left. Boy, this is a good book. Um, it really does cover major things about the culture and the church and society. It covers the age of chivalry, for example. It went into feudalism. As far as feudalism goes, let me give you a little snippet. This book compares it to the human body. This was often an example used, that the priests and the clerks, they were the head and the eyes of this body. They were the spiritual leadership. The nobles were the hands and the arms, and they provided defense and protection to society. And finally, the peasants were the feet and the legs, and they were the whole of society. The whole of society was actually based on their labor. It was supported by their labor. So every role in that human body, every part of the human body worked together, right? We know that when we study physiology, how everything works together. So I think this is a very good illustration of what the mindset was of those in the Middle Ages. And they thought this was the natural order of things. And it was very successful for a very long time. And I think it was for hundreds of years. Then the holding of land. This is what feudalism was based on: land ownership. So the king was at the top. He owned all the land in his country, and he would give portions of that land to his nobles. Those nobles would give portions of their land to lords, and then these lords would give portions of their land to knights, and in England it was given sometimes to squires as well. But there was an agreement. So I will give you this portion of land, but in return, you need to give me some sort of service. The nobles during times of war would go to, the nobles, the lords and the knights would fight during times of war, for example. This is how they return the favor, so to speak. The peasants, on the other hand, which I always found very interesting, nothing changed. I mean, there was their labor, whether you were in war or peacetime. Their obligation was to work the land, give their portion of their crops or their workmanship to their lord or the lord, whether it was a knight or a noble, whatever. And they were allowed to keep another portion of that land for their own sustenance. So I like how this book is really just a straight to the point, simplified way of going through the Middle Ages, which is about 1,000 years. And it's done a wonderful job. You want to start learning about the Middle Ages and you want something that's going to give you a wonderful sweep of everything, this would be it. This can be ordered from Memoria Press. And it's great. It's fantastic. And it has samples of poetry written at the time, connecting it to a specific country or an event. And I love that connection was placed in there. The next one I'm still working my way through, and this is really a great book: Nero, Matricide, Music, and Murder in Imperial Rome by Anthony Everitt and co-authored by Roddy Ashworth. Just fantastic. You read through this, and he really brings to life a lot of the events in Rome and Nero, and also the time of Nero's reign. And I like how they'll present information we already know, but he offers an alternative explanation, being a little more reasonable. So the ones that wrote about a certain incident in Nero's lives were disgruntled nobility, right? do you really think they're going to give him a fair review? And this is Anthony's, Mr. Everitt's argument. So he says another possibility could be this: they look for other sources and pull that in and consider that as well. Besides that, the prose on this is fantastic. It really does make for an enjoyable read. I could just keep reading and reading and reading. So this is a fantastic book on the life of Nero, and this is the one that I'm reading um, by the recommendation of Bob at Robert G. Reader of Books, as we're working our way through the Roman emperors. So Nero by Anthony Everitt and Roddy Ashworth. And that's that. The book that I finished is this one, the Vinland Sagas, which talks about Eric the Red and Leif the Lucky and all their adventures there. And this was a great short read. I just finished reading it. This is part of my quest to find primary sources in my Middle Age studies and to really make that the emphasis, the priority in my Middle Ages study. So that's done. Then I want to go over with you some of the books that I have. I know there's a book I'm reading on. The book I'm listening to on Audible is, again, Joseph Smith, The Rise and Fall of an American Prophet. That's the one that I don't want to forget. I think I'm on chapter 19 or something like that. I will have more details about this book as I work my way through it. I'm not quite done yet. So that's the audiobook that I'm reading. And these are the books that I recently purchased. This is one that I got at the recommendation of Adam Walker. If I can find the specific video in which he recommended this, I will place the link below in the description box. This is the Italian Renaissance Reader, edited by Julia Conway, Bondanella, and Mark Musa. So this is an introduction to the major Italian writers and influential thinkers of the Renaissance. I wanted this because, as I started approaching the Renaissance, there was so much that was going on in Italy, and I wanted to include this. So if I'm not mistaken, I got this recommendation from Adam Walker. I purchased this book used from eBay. I don't know how much I paid, but usually I try to look for something that's less than $10, or at the most I'd say roughly $15. So this is the one I got. This is, I want to see who the publisher is on this one. This is a Meridian book, and it was published under the Penguin Group in 1987. So that's going to go to my Renaissance studies. The next one that I purchased, because everybody's talking about it, and oh my gosh, how relevant is this for us today? Sinclair Lewis's It Can't Happen Here. I have his book that is The Jungle. I have that one, and I've read that one, and now I have this one. So it looks like I'm going to be reading this really soon. And if no one knows what this is about, it's just talking about how we think here in the United States. Authoritarianism is never going to happen here. Fascism is never going to happen here. And this book, I think this book was originally written in, this book was originally published in 1935. That's just so eerie to me. Wow. The next book that I found was Book and Dagger: How Scholars and Librarians Became Unlikely Spies in World War II. I love this. You know why? Because of what it said on the back. At the start of World War II, the U.S. found itself in desperate need of an intelligence agency. The Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, was quickly formed and began to recruit from academia to fill its ranks with experts. Suddenly, literature professors, librarians, and historians were training to perform undercover operations and investigative work. Drawing on personal histories, letters, and declassified OSS files, Book and Dagger tells the story of a small but connected group of humanities scholars, humanities people, humanities scholars turned spies who would ultimately help lay the foundations of modern intelligence and transform American higher education when they returned after the war. Thrillingly paced and rigorously researched, Book and Dagger is an inspiring and gripping true story about the academics who helped beat the Nazis, a tale that reveals the indelible power of the humanities to change the world. Go humanities. So, of course, you know I had to get this book. It's written by Elyse Graham. She's a historian and professor at Stony Brook University, and she holds degrees from Princeton, Yale, and MIT, and is the author of 3 academic books. Book and Dagger. And this is published by HarperCollins Publishers. I'm not sure what year was this published. I think it is fairly recent. 2024. Book and Dagger. And the last one that I got, I feel like I'm going to sneeze, is a Cambridge University Press, the Cambridge Companion to Old English Literature. Now, I know I got this recommendation from Adam Walker. And I got this one off eBay as well. I got a great price for it. Again, about 12 bucks, I would say. And this one was originally published well, 86, reprinted. So this is the 1998 reprint. And of course, this was in fantastic condition. Look at this. That's the bottom. That's the top. So you don't see a really huge difference in there's not a lot of yellowing. The spine is in excellent condition. There are absolutely no markings on here. None whatsoever. I think this was like $7 and change. And I think this first one here, the one that's a little more worse for wear, a little more yellowing, but the spine is still strong. I think this one I may have gotten for 15. All right, so these are the books. The Italian Renaissance Reader, the Cambridge Companion to Old English Literature, Book and Dagger by Elyse Graham, and Sinclair Lewis's It Can't Happen Here. So these are the 4 books that I got. And I continue to work my way through my middle-age reads. I think that's going to take me a while. And I'll keep you posted on that as I go along. And oh, before I finish, my timeline. No. Where did it go? I just had it. Here we go. And the book that I continue to work my way through for my Middle Ages study, I just want to show you what I'm doing with it, is The Civilization of the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. And I want to show you inside the book itself, so you can see, what I do is after every paragraph, I briefly summarize it in the margins, what each paragraph talks about. See, those are my summaries. And then what I do with those summaries is I go to my notebook and I add those summaries as a sort of outline. Here it is. As a sort of outline. So this was the previous chapter, which was chapter 2, the foundations of the Middle Ages. I transfer those summaries to the notebook in a roughly outline form. So by the time I finish the entire book, this notebook will be a summary of that entire book. And my objective after every chapter is completed and I've transferred all this information is to be able to go back to this outline and summarize the whole chapter as briefly as I can. So that's just something I wanted to show you. I annotate here, transfer the information here, so that I can put it together. And I find that it helps me retain a lot of the information because I have to put it in my own words. So this is something that's been proving to be very helpful for me. And this is a method that is not only suggested in how to read a book, but it's also talked about a lot in Susan Wise Bauer's book, The Well-Educated Mind. So there you go, people. That's everything that I've read and that I'm reading and that I purchased. Have a fabulous weekend. Be safe for the rest of the week. And I want to wish all of you happy holidays. Bye-bye.